Hello, my name is Kyle Morris and I'm the founder of SifData. I'm going to spend a couple of minutes walking you through how we're helping companies track when their key contacts make moves in Salesforce. The concept behind this idea came from managing a large team of SDRs where we were constantly fighting to find new opportunities. I realized that the easiest way for my team to set up meetings was to look for people who had purchased from us in the past and moved on to a new company. What we ended up finding was that the meetings were really easy to set up and that the information ended up helping our account management team work to prevent the churn of that current customer. Conceptually, tracking that information is pretty simple. What ends up making it difficult is that it takes an enormous amount of time for reps to keep this info up to date in Salesforce. I'm going to spend a couple minutes just walking you through how we're enriching this data and surfacing it up so reps can take action. Here in Salesforce, I've got a lead for myself. The general information you're going to have is title and company. And you can see a few extra fields with SD appended at the beginning. Those are fields that come from a package that you'll install with SifData. And it's a light package. It includes about 8 fields and an object. For a user, what we would end up doing is determining which records they want to track. And once they've made that determination, we can programmatically, using Salesforce code or workflows, or individually as a user, they can come in and say, I want to track this user. When they do that, we're going to copy the data that you have in the title and company and store that in these fields called SD company and SD title. And the idea behind that is we want to enrich these fields because we don't necessarily want to overwrite your data until you're ready. So what ends up happening is we take this information, we pull it into our database, and then we go to LinkedIn and determine has there been a change or not. And so what we do is we compare what LinkedIn says against what against what Salesforce says. The way that it would look when we enrich this data is you would see that Kyle, he was the director of operations at Gigya, and he's now the founder of SifData. You'd see not only that change there, but we're going to tell you what that confidence interval is between those two things being the same. And really what this is just string matching, where we're trying to compare and normalize between these two values. So obviously Gigya and SifData are not the same, so it's a pretty low match rate. And then we're also going to return the LinkedIn URL that we matched against. If you end up updating this, we'll leverage what you have versus what we have, and we can use custom fields if you've already got that data. Now that we've enriched this, we also want to surface it in a way so that reps can take action. The way that we do that is we create what are called SifData alerts. And it's an object that stores what the old value was, what the new value was, what the old value was, new value was, and the match percentages. So you can see over time how this data has changed. So you can see that Kyle went from Gigya to SifData and director of operations to founder. And now it's the same information that's here, but where this becomes more interesting is if you go to SifData Alerts, the tab, you can start seeing a rundown of all of the leads and contacts that have made moves over a given time frame. So for this, it's today. It's a little bit old, but the idea is, you could come in and see your honeypot of good leads that have made a move from one company to or another, or gotten a promotion, or taken some action to show opportunities to create new business or to identify to your account management team to prevent churn in case they've left a current customer. Now, taking this to another example would be like Marissa Mayer. So she initially started out as at Google. She was a director of consumer web services and then moved to the vice president of something or other. And so you can see that from Google to Google, there was no change. So it was a match of 100%. However, her title had a pretty significant change. And so we determined that was a 50% match. And so that would have created an alert. Down the road, she ended up moving from Google to Yahoo, which is a significant change, and then moved from VP of this to the president and CEO, which is a significant change. And so what that ends up meaning is you can see the history of this record over time as it's moved from a lead into a contact, as they move from one company to another. So you can see, a holistic view of how this record has moved. And what this ends up allowing your team to do is for sales reps, if a person has already purchased from you in the past and they move to a new company, that's the prime time to reach out to them because one, they're probably evaluating vendors, and two, they have the capacity to make purchases because they've done it in the past. For your current customer where that person moved away from, it's really important to get in front of that. Oftentimes we found that account managers are not aware that their champions or billing contact or technical resources have moved to a new company until it's too late. And oftentimes when that's a key decision maker or an executive sponsor, that new person comes in without the account manager being aware, and they end up losing the business because the first thing they're going to do is evaluate vendors and cut out things that aren't creating value. So we're finding that tracking this information is really valuable for business, not just for setting up new opportunities, but also for retention and reducing churn. And so I don't want to take up any more time, but that's a brief overview of how SifData is helping folks reduce churn, increase business, and keep their database up to date. Thanks.